Good day, everyone. Today, we are going to discuss all about aquatic ecosystem. What is aquatic ecosystem? What are the components we can find in aquatic ecosystem? What are the different water environments? And what are the interactions that can be found and observed in aquatic ecosystem? Now, let us know each one of them. But before that one, what do you mean by aquatic ecosystem? When we say aquatic ecosystem, it refers to interaction of living things and non-living things in a water environments. So it is an ecosystem that um, that happens or that occurs in a water environment. It can be observed in water environment. When we say aquatic, it refers to water environment. There are actually components or things that we can observe in aquatic environments or ecosystem. What are those? Two, we have biotic and abiotic components. What is the difference between the two? When I say biotic components, these are components that refer to living organisms or living things such as plants and animals. So when I say biotic, they refer to living things, plants and animals. Let's go to abiotic components. It refer or they refer to non-living things. Abiotic components refer to non-living things. Example, we have sunlight. Sunlight is abiotic since it is non-living thing. Aside from that, this is a non-living thing that gives off energy to plants and animals. We have salinity, the salt content of water. Some aquatic animals need salt in water in order for them to sustain their life or survive in that environment. There's also water temperature. The water temperature in water must not be too cold or too hot in order for the organisms to survive in that environment. If the water is too hot, tendency they will die, and if the environment is too cold, they can survive that coldness also. Then lastly, we have dissolved oxygen. There are many types or many examples of abiotic components, but these are the only things that I will present to all of you. These are just few of the examples or many things that can be classified as abiotic component. Let us discuss or let us know what dissolved oxygen is. Dissolved oxygen is the oxygen that is produced by water plants. If land animals and humans inhale oxygen, land which is being produced by land plants. Dissolved oxygen is produced by water plants and it is being inhaled by aquatic or water animals. The bubbles that can be observed right there is an example of dissolved oxygen. The bubbles, so if you can see bubbles right there, the bubbles contain dissolved oxygen. Oxygen that is dissolved in water. That is the oxygen inhaled by fishes and other aquatic animals. So we're done already all about the components of aquatic ecosystem, abiotic and biotic components. Let us proceed to the types of ecosystem or aquatic ecosystem. There are actually two types of aquatic ecosystem. Water ecosystem. Let us know the two. We have here freshwater and marine. The freshwater examples of freshwater ecosystem are lake, ponds, streams, rivers, wetlands. Wetlands can be specified as swamps and marshes. We have also marine, ocean, seas, and estuary. Now, let us orient ourselves regarding the different types of freshwater and marine environment so that whenever we can see um, one in real life will be able to recognize them. So we have here the different aquatic environments wherein we can find aquatic ecosystems. We have freshwater, we have pond, we have lake, stream, and river. If you can see, pond is much smaller than lake, so a stream is much smaller than river. We have wetlands. Wetlands are marshes and swamps. Wetland is a transitional ecosystem, transitional wherein two environments meet. That is the point or place wherein two environment meets. Wetland is transitional since it's the place where the land and water meet. Try to look at. Seems like we can both see the land and aquatic or terrestrial and aquatic ecosystem in that place, so wetland. But these are examples of freshwater environments: pond, lake, stream, river, and wetlands. Let's proceed to marine environment. We have sea and beach. Then estuary. Estuary same as the wetlands. Estuary is a transitional ecosystem since it's the place where river and sea meet. Try to look at this one. Okay, this is river. This is sea. So estuary. This is the estuary. We're in the sea and river meet. So we're done already with the types of aquatic ecosystem. Be reminded, we have freshwater and marine. Now, let's go to the zones of aquatic ecosystem. These are parts of the environment that I showed to all of you earlier, the parts of freshwater environment and the parts of sea water or marine environments. So that we'll be able to locate or we can find um, so that we'll be able to locate the animals, the plants, where we can find the plants, animals, or the ecosystem in a particular water environment. It is very important for us to be oriented or be knowledgeable enough with regards the zones of aquatic ecosystem so that we'll be able to easily find the living organisms in that environment. First, we have the zones of ponds and lake. The ponds and lake have the same zones. We have benthic, photic, aphotic, littoral, and limnatic. So, if you can see, this is the benthic. These are benthic zones, the muddy zones, the soil. Then aphotic zone is a zone wherein there is little to no light that that can pass through in that particular part of the pond or lake. So it means that that place, that part of the lake is very dark. We have photic wherein the light can pass through in that part. So it has light. It's not that very dark. We have limnatic that is very far from the shore of the pond or lake. You have littoral. These are littoral zones, which are close to the shores of the ponds or lake. So let us know further the zones of the ponds or lake. We have littoral, limnatic, photic, aphotic, and benthic. Littoral is the area close to the shore of the pond or lake. Limnatic, that is the layer of open water farther away from the shore. Then we have also the aphotic region that receives light, aphotic region that receives little or no light at all, so it's very dark. Benthic area when sunlight penetrates and with fine layers of mud and sand. That is a muddy part. That is the muddy part of the ponds or lake. We can easily find most of the organisms in photic zone and benthic zone. So if you try to um, catch fish or for you to get some um, seafood or sea creatures in order for you to make them as food, you need to go to photic or benthic zone so that you can catch some. Okay, let's go back. Okay, we have littoral very close to the shore. Then we have also um, if here the photic, if here the photic, aphotic, then benthic zone, littoral. Now let's proceed to the next one. The zones of ocean or sea. We have intertidal zone, neretic zone, bathyal zone, and abyssal zone. Intertidal zone is a zone nearest to the shore wherein waves will can be observed. The neretic zone or that is a shallow part of the ocean or sea wherein we can find the corals. Most of the aquatic organisms in ocean or seas can be found in neretic zone. Bathyal zone, somewhat like not that very dark, but it is much darker than neretic zone since the light does not penetrate or pass through in that zone at all. Then abyssal zone, mostly it does not receive any light, so it's very dark. Abyssal zone. So most of the animals and plants can be found in erratic zone and intertidal zone. Intertidal zone, ocean meets land, then erratic zone, layer next to bathyal zone with total darkness where no organisms live. Bathyal zone, shallow area extending from the coast to 200 meters deep. Abyssal zone, zone beyond the erratic zone which squid, octopus, and sponges live. So what is something wrong with this slide? Let me correct myself. Okay. Intertidal zone, that is ocean meets land. For neretic zone is a shallow area extending from the coast to 200 meters deep. So neretic, this is the neretic zone. Bathyal zone is the layer um, wherein we can find the zone. I mean, we can find the squid, octopus, and sponges. Bathyal is a zone wherein we can find the squid, octopus, and sponges. Then abyssal zone is a layer after bathyal zone with total darkness where little or no organisms live at all. So intertidal, this one, erratic, then bathyal, and abyssal zone. Please double check, correct yourself also. Okay, I hope that is understood. Let's go back. So we have here um, the different zones of the ocean or seas. We have intertidal, neretic, bathyal, and abyssal zone. Closest to the shore, intertidal. After intertidal, that is neretic, wherein most of the aquatic animals live. Then afterwards, we have bathyal zone, wherein we can find the squid, octopus, and sponges. Then abyssal zone, it has little or no life at all. I hope everything is clear regarding the zones of ocean and ponds or lake. Now, the importance of knowing them is for us to locate the organisms and the ecosystem in that particular environment. Let's proceed right now to the interaction in aquatic environment. When I say community, if ecosystem is the interaction between living things and non-living things, community is the interaction among living organisms. So one living organism interact with another living organism, that is community or the community interaction. When you were still grade 4, you have known that there are many types of community interaction. in terrestrial environment. Let us know also in aquatic environment if they are just the same. Now let's start now. We have here the predation and competition. Predation and competition also happen in aquatic environment. Predation is the interaction wherein there is predator hunting for prey. Predator is an animal that eats other animal, and prey is an animal hunted for food or as food. So as you can see, we have crocodile in the fish. Crocodile bites or traps the sawfish. It catches the sawfish so that it will make it as its food. We have here also competition. Competition happens when there is limited um, food or territory. We can say also water or other needs of the animals. Not just animals but plants. Plants can also have competition. So animals compete for for food and other needs. Try to look at this one. It has, okay, on the right side we have food wherein there are many sea creatures. So they're competing for that food. So competition and predation also happen in aquatic environments. Aside from predation and competition, we have also what we call as symbiosis. What is symbiosis? Symbiosis is a cumulative interaction showing close relationship between two species in which at least one species benefits. There are three types of symbiotic relationship or symbiosis. You have mutualism, commensalism, and parasitism. Be reminded, symbiosis is a close relationship between the two species. You have mutualism, parasitism, commensalism. Now let us differentiate the three. We have mutualism, commensalism, parasitism. Let us differentiate the three. Mutualism, both organisms benefit each other. So if we try to look at, we have sea anemone and the hermit crab. Sea anemone receives free ride from hermit crab, and hermit crab is protected by sea anemone with tentacles. So both of them receive something. Sea anemone receives free ride, and hermit crab receive protection from sea anemone or being given by sea anemone. Now let's go to commensalism. Only one organism benefits in this relationship. That organism that benefits is called as commensal. And the other organism that is not harmed and does not benefit is called as hosts. Example, we have Remora receives free ride from shark. Remora receives or benefits something, while the shark does not benefit nor is harmed. So it means that only one benefits in this particular interaction or relationship. Remora receives something, the shark does not, and the shark is not harmed. Let us go to parasitism. One organism benefits while the other organism does not benefit and is harmed. Try to look at right here. Worms are parasite. They are the ones benefit in that particular they're the ones benefiting in that particular relationship. On the other hand, for the fish does not benefit at all and is harmed since worms suck blood from fish. So the fish lost something. So if we try to summarize or to sum it all, we have here animal A and animal B. As you can remember, symbiosis is the relationship, close relationship between two species. We have mutualism. Animal A benefits from animal B, and animal B benefits from animal A. Let's go to commensalism. The commensal, which is animal A, benefits from animal B. The host, which is animal B, does not benefit from animal A and it is not harmed. For parasitism, animal A is the parasite that benefits from animal B, and the host, which is animal B, does not benefit from animal A, and it is harmed. Try to look at the key word. Okay? Keywords. Commensal, not harmed. But for parasitism, it is harmed. So that is the difference between the two. So that you'll not be confused with commensalism and parasitism. Okay, let us recap. We have community interaction in aquatic environments, predation and competition, and symbiosis, wherein there are three types of symbiotic relationship. We have mutualism, parasitism, and commensalism. So let's proceed to feeding relationships. Feeding relationship is the interaction among organisms by which energy flows from producer to consumer. Now, feeding relationship can be shown by food chain and food web. So, when energy is transferred from one organism to another organism, there is what we call feeding relationship. And this can be shown by food chain and food web. Let's start with food chain. Food chain is an illustration showing one flow of eating and being eaten process. We have okay before we're going to discuss further regarding food chain, we should know all about the ecological niches. We have food producer, the producer, then we have consumers. Producer is always plant. It is always plant that can make its own food via photosynthesis and produce energy. We have also consumers. Consumers are animals that consume energy from plants or from other animals. We have herbivore, plant eater, carnivore, meat eater, omnivore, plant and meat eater, detritivore. These are animals or bacteria, fungi that decompose dead plant and animal matter, are also called as decomposer. So detritivore is also known as decomposer. It breaks down the dead bodies of animals and plants. So for you to make the food chain, we should observe this flow. The first one must be the source of energy, which is the sun. Sun gives off light, which is being received by the producer, which is a plant, and with that light energy, the plant can um, cre- can create its own food via photosynthesis with the help of mm, carbon dioxide and water. So we have producer. After producer, we have primary consumer, secondary consumer, tertiary consumer, and decomposer. Be reminded that the primary consumer must be always herbivore. It must be herbivore. Then secondary consumer must be carnivore. Then tertiary consumer must be omnivore or carnivore. Then afterwards you have decomposer. So why is it that the arrow is actually pointing from the source of energy towards the decomposer? Now it shows that the source of energy, the energy from the sun, is being given to the producer. Then the energy from producer, since the food from the producer itself is being eaten by herbivore. So the energy from producer will be given or transferred to herbivore. And since herbivore will be eaten by carnivore, so the energy from primary consumer will be transferred to secondary consumer. And since secondary consumer will be eaten by tertiary consumer, so the energy from secondary consumer will be given or transferred to tertiary consumer. And once the tertiary consumer, any among the three, will become dead, so they will be broken down and the energy from the tertiary consumer or other dead consumers or producer will be transferred to decomposer. So that's it. So that is how you're going to create a food chain. And be reminded Be reminded we're talking all about aquatic food chain. So we have here, okay, an example. Phytoplankton is a producer. Then it will be eaten by zooplankton. Then zooplankton will be eaten by small fish, and small fish will be eaten by large fish. In this case, we have the source of energy, which is the sun. Then phytoplankton is the producer. Zooplankton is the primary consumer. Small fish, the secondary consumer. The tertiary consumer is the large fish. In this particular food chain, the decomposer or the nutritivore is not being shown. Let's proceed to food web. Food web is an illustration showing overlapping food chains. If you try to look at, we have here plankton as the producer. It will be eaten by the krill, and krill can be eaten by the squid. So this is um, a food chain. There are other food chains that can be observed in this food web. Plankton eaten by krill, and krill being eaten by seal. So that is another food chain. Plankton eaten by krill and krill eaten by seagull. Another food chain. Plankton eaten by krill and krill being eaten by blue whale. Another food chain. Then we have plankton eaten by krill, krill being eaten by squid, and squid is being eaten by penguin. Another food chain. Or we have plankton eaten by penguin, and penguin is being eaten by seal. So that is another food chain. How many food chains are there already? One, two, three, four, five, six. Six overlapping food chains um, that can be observed in this particular food web. So if you try to look at food web is the overlapping food chains. There are many food chains that can be observed in food web. Let's proceed to trophic or energy pyramid. It is an illustration showing the level of nourishment of organism transferred from one organism to another organism. So we have here the producer. It is a pyramid, obviously. It shows a 10% rule. Producer, primary consumer, secondary consumer, tertiary consumer. This arrow um, tells us that the energy is being transferred from producer to primary, primary to secondary, secondary to tertiary. What does 10% rule mean? Let's say, for example, the producer has 1 million kcal. Kcal is the unit for energy. So, once producer will be eaten by primary consumer, the primary consumer can only receive 10% of energy from the producer. So since the producer has 1 million kcal, what is the 10% of 1 million kcal? It is 100,000 kcal. So it is the 10% of 1 million. 100,000 kcal is the 10% of 1 million kcal. Now, primary consumer will be eaten by secondary consumer. Since primary consumer has only 100,000 kcal, 10% of that 100,000 kcal will be transferred and be received by secondary consumer. So what is the 100,000 of, what is the 10% of 100,000? It is 10,000. So only 10,000 is gained by secondary consumer. Then secondary consumer is eaten by tertiary consumer. The same tertiary consumer can only receive 10% of the total energy of secondary consumer. Energy of secondary consumer is 10,000 kcal. What is 10% of 10,000 kcal? It is 1,000 kcal. So you will just multiply it by 0.10. So that is how the trophic or energy pyramid works, wherein the bottommost one has the largest energy or highest energy. Then the tertiary consumer, which is on top, it has the lowest energy or the least energy. The greatest energy and has the least energy. So that is how the traffic or energy pyramid works. I hope everything is understood. Now let us recap, by the way. Okay. Be reminded with the aquatic ecosystem. Interaction of living and non-living things in water environments. Then we have two components, biotic and abiotic components. Biotic for non-living mean for living things, abiotic non-living things. Then we have the types of aquatic system, freshwater and marine. Freshwater, the pond, lake, stream, river, wetland. Marine, sea, and beach and estuary. Zones of aquatic ecosystem, we have benthic, littoral, limnatic, photic, aphotic, and benthic zone. Okay. Yes, benthic zone. Then, zones of ocean, intertidal, neretic, methial, and abyssal. Then, community interaction, predation, competition, symbiosis, mutualism, commensalism, and parasitism. Then, lastly, we have feeding, relationship, the food chain, food web, and the traffic or energy pyramid. I hope everything is clear. Feel free to send message if there's something that you have confusion, that you're confused with, with a particular concept of this um, topic. God bless and see you soon in the next Zoom meeting. God bless.